Rain poured from the red sky like burning glass. The storm had been raging for hours, turning the wide green river into a roaring beast. In the distance, lightning tore across the clouds, lighting up the faces of 5 aliens standing near the cliff. They were all from the same family, but their eyes were cold, empty, and full of fear. Lying on the ground before them was a young alien woman named Saris. Her long silver hair was soaked, her body trembling. She tried to move her legs, but nothing happened. From the waist down, she felt nothing, only pain that existed somewhere far away, unreachable. She looked up at her family, begging without words. "Please," she whispered. "Don't leave me here," no one answered. Her father turned his face away. Her mother hid her eyes behind trembling hands. The others only stared at the river. Saris had once been the pride of her family, beautiful, strong, and gentle. But after the accident, after her body stopped obeying her, they began to call her a burden. In their world, weakness was shame. Those who could not stand were not meant to live. The youngest brother, Ryan, stepped forward. He held her by the shoulders, his face twisted with guilt and hate. "Forgive me, sister," he said softly, though his voice shook. "It's better this way." The elders said so. Saris gasped. "No, please, Ryan. Please don't." He didn't look at her again. The storm screamed above them. The river below roared louder. Then, in one sharp movement, Ryan lifted her and threw her into the current. The world became soundless. Saris hit the water like a falling star. Cold wrapped around her body. The river spun her, dragged her under. She tried to scream, but her voice vanished into bubbles. The current pulled her deeper, darker, faster. The taste of metal filled her mouth. Her lungs burned. She thought of her mother's eyes one last time, and then she let go. For a moment, everything turned quiet. Only the sound of her heartbeat echoed in her head. Then, light. Through the surface, she saw a blur. A tall figure standing on the cliff under the rain, not one of her kind. His shape was strange, his armor dark, his eyes glowing faintly blue. A human. Saris had heard stories about them, invaders from another world, dangerous and wild. Her people called them destroyers, but also saviors. No one knew the truth anymore. The light above shifted. The human was moving. And then, he jumped. The river exploded around her. Strong arms wrapped around her body, pulling her up. Her eyes opened wide as the stranger fought the current, his breath heavy, his face covered in rain. He pushed her toward the surface again and again, refusing to let her sink. When they finally reached the shore, the man dragged her onto the wet sand. He fell beside her, gasping. For a moment, he didn't move. Saris lay there, half-conscious, water dripping from her hair. The human leaned over her, pressing his hands to her chest, counting softly. His touch felt different, warm and desperate. She coughed. Water burst from her mouth, and she began to breathe again. Her eyes opened fully now, locking onto his. They were brown, deep, and full of life. He smiled weakly. "You're alive," he said in broken alien tongue, his voice rough and kind. Saris tried to speak, but her lips trembled. "Why?" she whispered. "Why save me?" The human tilted his head, confused. Then he simply said, "Because no one else did." Tears filled her eyes. She turned her head slightly and saw the river where she had almost died. Her family was gone. The cliffs were empty. The storm still howled, but now it sounded far away. She closed her eyes again. Her body felt heavy, her heartbeat weak. The human touched her wrist gently, checking her pulse. His expression softened. "Stay with me," he whispered. She wanted to answer, but the darkness pulled her under again. Not the cold darkness of the river, but something softer, safer. The last thing she felt was his hands lifting her once more. He carried her up the hill step by step through the rain. The wind tore at his clothes, but he didn't stop. When he reached a broken stone shelter at the edge of the forest, he laid her down near a small fire he built from shattered alien wood and glowing minerals. For hours, he watched her. He made sure she kept breathing. He covered her with his jacket and sat close enough to keep her warm. Outside, thunder rolled again. But inside the ruined shelter there was only silence and the faint crackle of firelight on her pale face. The human whispered to himself, "Who could do this to their own blood?" He looked at her again, at her fragile hands and lifeless legs, and something inside him hardened. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story. But he knew one thing. He had found someone worth saving. As the firelight flickered, Sarah stirred, her eyes opening slightly. She saw him sitting there, soaked and shivering, his eyes still on her. She tried to speak, but only one word came out. Human. He smiled again, tired but calm. Rest, he said softly. You're safe now. Outside, the storm began to fade. The river calmed. The first hint of morning light touched the clouds, and for the first time since her fall, Saris dreamed, not of water, but of warmth. The fire was dying when Saris woke again. A soft red light filled the shelter, painting the cracked walls in a warm glow. Her body still felt heavy, but there was something different this time. She could breathe without pain. She could hear rain falling softly outside instead of roaring thunder. She turned her head and saw the human sitting near the doorway. He was sharpening a metal blade made from scavenged alien steel. His dark hair was dripping wet, his clothes torn and muddy, yet his eyes stayed sharp and alert. For a long moment she only watched him. His movements were quiet, careful, like someone used to danger. He looked human, yes, but not like the story said. There was no cruelty in him, no hunger for power, just calm focus and quiet strength. When he noticed her awake, he smiled faintly. You're alive, he said in a rough accent. Saris tried to sit up, but pain shot through her back. He quickly moved beside her, supporting her shoulders with steady hands. Easy, he said. You're still weak, she nodded slowly. Where am I? He looked toward the broken window. Old station ruins. Abandoned long ago. It's safe for now. Saris studied him again. His name, his reason for being here, she knew none of it. Humans were supposed to have left this sector years ago. Why was one still here? You should have left me, she whispered. You could have died in that river. He paused, staring at the fire for a while. Maybe, he said quietly. But I couldn't watch someone drown. Not again. His voice held weight. Pain lived behind those words. Saris wanted to ask what he meant, but he stood up before she could speak. He walked toward his small pile of supplies, broken tools, scraps of wiring, a half-charged battery. She saw how little he had. Still, everything in that shelter looked carefully arranged, as if he'd been surviving here for some time. What's your name? She asked softly. He turned to her and hesitated before replying. Cole, he said. Engineer. From Earth, or what's left of it. The way he said those last words made Saris frown. She had heard stories of Earth's fall, how its people scattered among the stars, but no one ever told her they still cared about saving others. I'm Saris, she said at last. Her voice trembled as she added, Thank you for saving me. Cole gave a small nod. You'd have done the same. She looked away. No, she whispered. My people wouldn't. For a moment, silence filled the room again. Only the fire crackled softly between them. Cole leaned back against the wall, his eyes still on her. You were thrown in, he said finally. Not an accident, was it? Saris froze. Her lips parted, but no words came out. He didn't press her for an answer. Instead, he stood and picked up a small piece of metal. Your back injury, it's bad, he said. But maybe I can build something to help. She frowned. Build? He pointed at a half-finished exo-brace on the ground. Thin, metallic limbs shaped to fit around her legs. I was working on this for myself. It might help you walk again, at least for a while. Saris looked at him in disbelief. Why would you do that for me? Cole smiled faintly. Because someone once helped me when I couldn't walk. Outside, the rain slowed to a soft drizzle. Faint blue mist rose from the ground. The light from the fire touched Saris's silver hair, making it glow softly. She looked fragile, yet there was quiet strength in her eyes now. You're different, she said finally. Not like the others. He gave a tired laugh. That's what they told me too. Back on Earth. A strange calm filled the air between them. Saris leaned her head back against the wall. Cole, she said softly. My family will come for me. They think I'm dead, but if they find me with a human... Cole's hand tightened around the metal brace. Then we better make sure they don't find us. For the first time since her fall, Saris smiled. It was small and faint, but real. You don't even know who I am, she whispered. I know enough, Cole said. You needed saving. That's enough for me. The wind outside grew stronger again, howling through the cracks. Cole stood by the doorway, watching the forest beyond. He could see distant flashes of light, scouting drones maybe, searching the valley. He turned back to her and said, Rest now. Tomorrow we move. Saris closed her eyes, letting the warmth of the fire wash over her. the sound of rain mixed with the beating of her heart. She didn't know if this human was a fool or a miracle. But for the first time in her life, someone had chosen her. Not because of duty, not because of blood, but because they cared. And that choice would change everything. Morning came slow and pale. The storm was gone, leaving behind mist that curled through the trees like soft smoke. Inside the broken shelter, Cole worked silently. Sparks flashed from his tools as he shaped metal into smooth curves. His hands were steady, his eyes tired but focused. Every piece he built mattered. Saris watched him from where she lay on a rough blanket. Her body still ached. The numbness in her legs had not changed. She tried to move her toes again, but nothing happened. The silence that followed was heavier than pain. She turned her eyes toward Cole. He looked different in the daylight. Not just human, but human with purpose. His jaw was rough with stubble, his skin marked by old scars. There was kindness in him, but also something broken deep inside. "What are you building?" she asked softly. He smiled a little without looking up. "A chance," he said. "Maybe it will work. Maybe it won't. But we'll find out soon." Saris tilted her head. "You really think you can fix me?" Cole paused and met her eyes. "I don't fix people," he said gently. "I help them stand." The words made her heart beat faster. No one had ever said something like that to her before. Her own family had called her a curse. They told her she would never stand again, never belong. But this human was trying anyway. Cole connected two small rods and tested the joint. The exoframe moved smoothly, like living metal. He nodded to himself, then set it beside her. "It's not perfect," he said. "But if we're lucky, it'll hold your weight for a while." Saris looked at the strange device. "Why are you helping me, Cole? You don't even know me." He sat down beside her, eyes on the fire. "I was a soldier once," he said slowly. "Lost my unit during a crash on this planet. I broke both my legs. The only reason I lived was because someone, an alien woman, found me and carried me out. She never told me her name. I never saw her again. But I still owe that life to someone who could have left me to die." Saris listened quietly. She could hear the truth in his voice, the pain behind his calm tone. "So now you're returning the favor," she said. "Maybe," he answered. "Or maybe I just couldn't walk away." The silence that followed was gentle this time. After a while, Cole lifted the brace and said, "Let's try it." Saris's hands trembled as he helped her sit up. Her legs felt like dead weight, but Cole was careful, patient. He slipped the metal frame around her waist and tightened the straps across her thighs. Then he pulled two energy wires from a small power cell and connected them to the brace. A soft hum filled the air. Blue light ran through the metal, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Okay," Cole said quietly. "Try to move your right leg." Saris stared at her leg. For a second, nothing happened. Then she felt a faint vibration. Something alive inside the metal. Her foot twitched. Just a little, but it moved. Her breath caught in her throat. "I felt that," she whispered. Cole smiled. "Good. Now the other." The left leg responded more slowly. She bit her lip, pushing her focus into the movement. Then both legs shifted slightly. She gasped. Her body leaned forward, unsteady, but standing for the first time in so long that tears filled her eyes. "I can't believe it," she said, shaking. "You don't need to believe," Cole said softly. "Just keep trying." He held her steady as she took her first weak step. Her knees bent awkwardly, the frame buzzing with effort. She almost fell, but Cole caught her before she hit the ground. They both laughed, tired, breathless laughter that broke the silence around them. "See?" Cole said, smiling. "Told you I help people stand." Saris nodded, her eyes shining. "You don't even know what this means to me." Cole looked away, pretending to check the brace. "You'll tell me one day," he said quietly. Outside, the mist began to lift. The sound of distant engines echoed faintly through the forest. Cole's smile faded. He knew that sound. It was not thunder. He turned toward the doorway, scanning the horizon. Saris noticed the sudden change in his face. "What is it?" she asked. He grabbed his weapon and whispered, "We're not alone." Saris's hands tightened around the frame of her new legs. Her family, she thought. They had come looking for her, and this time she was not helpless anymore. The night had returned, but the forest did not sleep. Cold wind moved through the trees, carrying strange sounds with it. The soft hum of engines came and went like ghosts. Cole sat near the broken window, his weapon resting across his knees, eyes fixed on the darkness outside. Saris sat quietly beside the fire, her legs still supported by the metal brace. The device glowed faint blue beneath her blanket, its light pulsing gently with every slow movement she made. She could stand now, but her body was still weak. Every small step cost her strength. Still, she felt alive again, more than she had in years. Cole turned his head slightly. "They're close," he said. His voice was calm but tense. Saris looked toward the trees. The faint outline of flying drones moved between the branches, their red sensors flashing like fireflies. She recognized the pattern instantly. It was her clan's patrol. "They're looking for me," she whispered. "They must have tracked my family's signal." Cole adjusted his weapon and checked the battery pack. "They won't stop until they find you," he said. "We need to move before sunrise." Saris shook her head weakly. "No, they'll know every path. They'll follow our trail. You can't fight them all." Cole looked at her. "I don't need to fight them all. I just need to keep you alive." He started packing what little gear he had. Tools, ration packs, a cracked data tablet, and a map drawn by hand. Saris watched him work, her heart heavy with guilt. Every sound outside grew sharper. The forest seemed to listen. "You shouldn't risk your life for me," she said softly. "I'm nothing to your kind." Cole stopped for a moment, then smiled faintly. "You're someone who needed help. That's enough for me." His words were simple, but they reached deep inside her. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the woods, metallic and loud. It was speaking her name. "Saris of the Kirai family. You are ordered to return to your clan. The punishment for disobedience will be death." The voice came from a drone. Its beam of light swept across the ground, scanning the ruins. Cole motioned for her to stay quiet. He moved to the far corner of the shelter, crouching low, eyes fixed on the shadows outside. The fire's light flickered over his face, showing calm determination. The drone passed close to the doorway. Cole raised his weapon, waiting. The red beam stopped just short of the firelight, then slowly drifted away. When the sound faded, Saris exhaled shakily. "They'll come back," she said. "They never stop." Cole sat beside her again. "Then we'll make sure they have nothing to find." He started dismantling parts of the shelter's walls, pulling out energy cells from the old circuits. Saris watched, confused, until he connected two of them with a wire and buried them near the door. "What is that?" she asked. "A surprise," he replied. "If they step inside, they'll think twice next time." He turned to her and said, "Can you stand?" Saris nodded. With effort, she pushed herself up, the brace whirring softly. She took one step, then another. Cole steadied her arm. "Good," he said quietly. "You're getting stronger." The forest rustled again. This time it wasn't wind. A shadow moved outside. Then another. Voices whispered in the alien tongue, closer now. Cole and Saris froze. The door burst open. 3 figures entered, tall, armored, carrying plasma rifles. Their helmets reflected the firelight. One of them stepped forward and removed his mask. It was Rian. Saris's heart broke at the sight. "Brother," she whispered. Ryan's eyes were cold. "You should have stayed in the river," he said. "Now you bring shame to all of us." Cole moved between them, weapon ready. "Back away," he said firmly. Ryan's gaze shifted to the human. "You saved her," he said with disgust. "You don't understand what she is." "I understand enough," Cole said. Without warning, one of the soldiers raised his gun. Cole fired first. The blast lit the room, throwing sparks across the walls, the air filled with smoke and heat. Sarah screamed as Ryan lunged forward, tackling Cole. The two crashed into the debris, struggling for control. Sarah grabbed a fallen piece of metal and hit the soldier, trying to pull Cole away. Her body shook with fear, but she didn't stop. The exobrace flared with energy, helping her move faster than she thought possible. Cole broke free and slammed the activation switch on the buried cells. A flash of blue light exploded through the shelter, blinding everyone inside. The shockwave threw Ryan and his men backward into the trees. When the light faded, only Cole and Saris remained standing, breathing hard. "We need to go," Cole said. Saris stared at the forest where her brother had fallen. Her heart ached, but she turned away. "Yes," she said softly. "Let's go." They disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind smoke, fire, and silence. Above them, the forest whispered again, but this time, it whispered their names. Dawn crept through the trees, pale and silent. Smoke still rose from the ruins they had escaped. Cole and Saris moved through the wet forest, the ground soft beneath their boots. Every step was slow. Cole kept checking behind them, listening for the sound of drones. His shoulder bled through his torn shirt, but he said nothing. Saris walked beside him with help from the brace. The faint blue light under her clothes flickered with each movement. Her body was weak, but she refused to stop. Each step was proof that she still lived. When they reached a quiet valley, Cole stopped. A wide fallen tree formed a bridge across a small stream. "We rest here," he said. His voice was calm, but his eyes looked far away. Saris sat on a rock, breathing hard. "You are hurt," she said. He smiled faintly. "You noticed." He pressed his hand against the wound. "It's nothing new. I've had worse." Saris watched him tear a piece of cloth from his sleeve and tie it around his arm. His hands shook, not from fear but exhaustion. He had carried her weight, fought soldiers, and still found the strength to keep her alive. "You could have left me," she said quietly. "You should have." Cole looked up. "I told you before, Saris, I don't leave people behind." His words were simple, but they carried something heavy, something real. The morning light touched his face. Saris saw the lines near his eyes, the tiredness of a man who had lost too much and still kept going. She wondered what kind of world could make someone like him. Cole turned his attention to the exobrace. "This thing won't last long," he said. "The power cells are low. If we don't recharge them, you'll lose motion again." "Then we find more," she said. He nodded. "There's a wreck not far from here. Old transport ship. If we're lucky, it still has fuel cells." Saris frowned. "If my family is looking for me, they'll search that wreck first." "Then I'll go alone," Cole said. She grabbed his arm. "No, you saved me. I won't let you walk into danger alone." Cole met her eyes. "You can barely stand." "I can stand enough," she said firmly. He looked at her for a long moment, then smiled. "You really are stubborn." They set off together, moving through tall grass and broken stones. The forest grew darker as they neared the crash site. Metal wreckage rose from the ground like the ribs of some dead beast. Smoke from years past still seemed to hang over it. Cole climbed the wreck first. "Stay low," he said. "If they're watching, we don't want to be seen." Inside, the air smelled of rust and oil. Broken lights lined the corridor. Cole moved carefully, checking every corner. Saris followed, using the wall for support. The silence was deep, almost sacred. They found the power cells in the engine bay, still glowing faint green. Cole pulled one free and smiled. "Enough to keep your legs running for weeks." Saris was about to reply when a faint sound echoed from the hall, a voice speaking her name. She froze. "Cole, they're here." He turned quickly, weapon ready. From the shadows came figures in armor, their symbols shining faint gold. Not soldiers this time, elders. Her family had sent priests to finish what the soldiers could not. Cole whispered, "Get behind me." The elders raised their hands. "Saris, return to us. You are a shame that must end." Saris's voice trembled but grew strong. "No, I will not return." One of them stepped forward, holding a burning staff. "You defy the code." Cole aimed his weapon. "Back away," the elder sneered. "You protect her? She is nothing to you," Cole answered quietly. "She's everything I promised." Before the elder could speak again, Cole fired at the ceiling. The explosion sent metal raining down. Smoke filled the air. He grabbed Saris's hand and pulled her toward a side hatch. They ran through the wreckage, the sound of shouting behind them. The fire spread fast, lighting the corridor in red and gold. When they reached open ground again, the wreck burned like a dying star. Cole stopped to catch his breath. Saris turned to him, eyes shining through tears. "You kept your word," she said softly. He smiled, tired and proud. "I said you'd walk again. I never said it would be easy." The wind shifted, carrying the smell of rain and ash. Saris looked back one last time at the burning ship, then forward at the endless valley ahead. Cole placed a hand on her shoulder. "From here," he said, "we make our own path." And as they walked together into the mist, the first drops of rain began to fall again, washing away everything behind them, leaving only the promise that had kept them alive. The valley slept under silver clouds. For the first time in many nights, there was quiet. Cole and Saris rested near a small cave hidden between tall stones. The fire was low, giving off a soft orange glow that made their faces look calm, but neither of them truly slept. Both knew peace never lasted long on this planet. Saris sat near the entrance, her exo-brace still faintly humming. The metal around her legs had become part of her now. She ran her hand along the glowing joints, feeling the steady rhythm of its pulse. Each spark of light reminded her that she could walk again because of him. Cole was cleaning his weapon in silence. His movements were slow, almost careful, as if every action was a thought. His shoulder wound had not healed, but he hid the pain behind a small smile. When Saris looked at him, she could see it, though, the quiet ache in his eyes. "You should rest," she said softly. He looked up. "And let you stand guard alone?" "Not a chance," she smiled faintly. "You can't protect me forever, Cole." "Maybe not," he said, "but I can try until you don't need me anymore." The fire flickered. The warmth between them said what words didn't. For a moment, the world felt gentle. Then the wind changed. Cole noticed it first. The air grew heavy. The night birds stopped singing. The trees whispered something low and distant. He stood slowly, scanning the horizon. A strange red glow shimmered far away, moving closer with each second. "Engines," he said. Saris's heart skipped. "My family again?" Cole listened. The deep hum wasn't from patrol drones this time. It was larger, sharper, like warships hovering low. "No," he whispered. "This is something else." Moments later, beams of white light cut through the valley. Shadows moved between the trees, dozens of soldiers armored and armed. Cole pulled Saris back into the cave. "They found us," he said quietly. Saris clutched his arm. "How?" "They must have followed the wreck's explosion," Cole replied. "I should have known it would draw them." She looked out at the lights. "We can't fight all of them." Cole checked the power cell on his weapon. "We won't. We'll make them chase us." Before she could answer, a blast hit the ground near the cave entrance. Dust rained from the ceiling. Cole pushed Saris behind a rock and fired into the night. Blue light streaked across the trees, cutting through the enemy lines. The soldiers spread out, shouting in alien language. Saris felt the tremor of each shot through the ground. She reached for Cole, her voice shaking. "They'll surround us." Cole handed her a small detonator. "If they do press this, what does it do?" "It gives us time," he said with a tired grin. He stepped out into the open, firing again. Plasma bolts lit the valley. The sky turned bright with energy bursts. Cole moved fast, dodging, returning fire, always drawing their attention away from the cave. Saris watched, heart pounding. He was just one man against an army, yet he didn't falter. She could see why the stories about humans frightened her people. They fought like storms, unpredictable, wild, and full of heart. But then a sudden blast threw Cole backward. He hit the ground hard, the weapon flying from his hand. "Cole!" Saris screamed. He tried to move but couldn't. His leg was bleeding badly. The soldiers closed in. Saris looked at the detonator. Her hand trembled. She remembered his words, "It gives us time." She activated it. A small pulse spread across the valley, shaking the ground. The rocks above the cave began to crack. "Run!" Cole shouted. "Go, Saris!" But she didn't move. Instead, she dragged herself to him, using the brace for balance. The blue lights on her legs burned brighter as she lifted him up with all her strength. The explosion tore through the cave entrance, blocking the path behind them. Smoke and fire filled the air. Saris stumbled but kept moving, holding Cole close. The world around them roared like thunder, but she didn't stop. They reached the river again, the same one where their story began. The water glowed under the moonlight. Saris looked back at the burning valley and then at Cole, who was barely conscious. "You saved me from this river once," she whispered. "Now it's my turn." She stepped into the cold water. the current pushing against her legs. The exo-brace strained, lights flickering, but she held on. She carried him through the current, one step at a time, until they reached the other side. When they collapsed on the shore, the soldiers' lights faded behind them. The night grew quiet again, filled only with the sound of rushing water. Cole opened his eyes weakly. "You didn't run," he said. Sarah smiled through her tears. "Neither did you." He laughed softly, breathless. "Guess we're both bad at giving up." She looked at him, her voice trembling. "No, Cole. We're just human enough." And as the first light of dawn touched the river, the fire behind them died away, leaving only the sound of life still refusing to surrender. Morning rose slow and golden, spreading light across the valley that had once burned with war. Smoke drifted through the trees, soft and thin like fading memories. The river glimmered quietly, washing away the night's blood and fire. On the far bank, two figures lay side by side, one human, one alien, both alive but barely moving. Saris opened her eyes first. The wind touched her face, cool and gentle. Her body ached all over, and the exo-brace around her legs buzzed weakly. When she turned her head, she saw Cole lying beside her, his chest rising and falling slowly. His clothes were torn, his arm still bleeding from the battle. He looked peaceful in the sunlight, almost asleep. She crawled closer and placed her hand over his heart. It was still beating, steady and strong. Relief filled her eyes with tears. "Cole," she whispered. "Wake up, please." For a long moment he didn't move. Then with a slow breath he opened his eyes. "You're still here," he said quietly. She smiled through tears. "You think I'd leave you now?" He gave a weak laugh. "You carried me through that river." "I couldn't let it take you," she said. "Not the same way it tried to take me." They both looked at the river flowing beside them. It shimmered like glass, calm now, as if the storm that had once swallowed her never happened. Cole sat up slowly, wincing in pain. "You saved my life," he said. "Guess that makes us even." Sarah shook her head. "No, you gave me something my own family never did. You made me stand again." She looked down at her legs. The lights on the exo-brace flickered, dying one by one. The power cells were almost empty. "It's fading," she said softly. Cole nodded. "Then we find another way. I can fix it again." Her eyes softened. "You always say that. But how long can you keep fixing everything that's broken?" He looked at her, his voice calm and certain. "As long as I'm breathing." A quiet moment passed between them. Above, the sun climbed higher, touching the forest with warmth. The light fell across Saris's silver hair, making it glow like morning mist. She helped Cole stand, supporting him with her arm. Together they began walking along the riverbank, one slow step at a time. Each step hurt, but it also reminded them they were still alive. As they moved through the forest, distant sounds followed them, the soft hum of alien ships and the faint rhythm of footsteps. Saris turned her head, her expression tense. "They're coming again." Cole stopped, listening. "No," he said after a moment. "That's not an attack." From the edge of the forest emerged a group of aliens, unarmed and silent. They weren't soldiers. They wore white robes marked with blue circles, the symbol of healers. At their front walked an older alien woman with pale golden eyes. Saris froze. "Mother?" The woman approached slowly. Her face was lined with grief. "We were wrong, my child," she said. "The elders saw the truth in your survival. The storm did not take you because you were cursed. It spared you because you were strong." Saris couldn't speak. Her throat closed with emotion. Cole stood quietly beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. Her mother's gaze shifted to Cole. "And you, human, you risked your life for her." Cole nodded slightly. "Anyone would have." "No," the woman said softly. "Not anyone. Only someone who sees beyond fear." She stepped closer and placed a glowing crystal on Saris's brace. The metal pulsed bright blue again. "This will heal her fully," she said. "But when she walks again, she must decide which world she belongs to." Saris looked at Cole. "And if I already know?" Her mother smiled sadly. "Then walk with him. The stars no longer separate those who understand love." The healers turned and left quietly, their robes disappearing into the trees. The forest fell silent again. Cole stared at Saris, unsure what to say. She smiled, standing taller as the new energy surged through her legs. For the first time, she walked without pain. Each step was light, free, real. Cole watched her in awe. You're walking? She turned to him, eyes shining. No, Cole, we're walking. He laughed softly, shaking his head. You sound like one of those ancient poets. Maybe, she said, but poets don't lie. They walked toward the open fields, leaving the forest and river behind. The morning sun lit the horizon with gold and white. Ahead of them, mountains glowed beneath clouds shaped like wings. Saris looked back one last time. The river sparkled where her family had cast her away. Now it looked peaceful, almost sacred. That river tried to end me, she said quietly, but it gave me you instead. Cole looked at her with a small smile. Sometimes the universe gets it right. The wind carried their laughter across the valley. Birds rose into the sky and the light grew warmer. They kept walking toward the rising sun. One human, one alien, two souls who had crossed every boundary of fear, pain, and loss. And for the first time, both felt truly free.